Hello everyone and welcome along to the VCO Studio show hosted by me, Ben Constanduros. Here on the VCO Studio show, we like to get to the heart of all that we speak to understand how a person, a team or an event really ticks. We are passionate fans hoping to educate you a little more on the exciting and ever-changing world of esports racing. And tonight is a little different. Tonight is all about a brand new event into the world of esports racing, the V10 R-League. And with us this evening is Nick Westwood, the exec producer of this exciting new event. Nick, thank you very much for joining us. I think you're still in the office, aren't you?
I am, yes. I'm in the studio, in our central London studio, yeah.
That is commitment. I'm very envious. Usually, Nick, this is your life on our esports studio show. We like to get to know our guests. So for those of you watching who want to get involved in the organizational side of esports, how did you end up working for Gfinity?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think a lot of people that are watching this will know Gfinity already from their work with in motorsport, in digital motorsport already, but also in broader esports through the Elite Series, which they ran for a number of seasons here in the UK, and they've also done loads of global events for all the big publishers and a lot of sporting organisations. So I was involved a few years ago around another competition, and really when I was working, I come from a TV background, big sports TV and entertainment background, working at major broadcasters, and I really wanted to have a look at esports, and really there was only one choice, one place to go. It's certainly in the UK, but equally in terms of as a business that looks at programming around esports. And there's a lot of companies around the world that do esports, but through the team here, they're really impressive in the way that they look at shows from a broadcast perspective, from a way of engaging audiences online, on demand, and on air as well.
And you come from a bit of a motorsport background as well. You've got a bit of an interest in esports racing too.
Yeah, when I grew up, my father worked in motorsports very closely in Formula One. In MotoGP at the time. It was an amazing thing to be around World Rally as well in the 80s, which was the heyday. So there was a lot of times at Chatsworth special stages, and he obviously got to go a bit further afield with the 1,000 lakes and things like that. So it was a big passion for mine as a kid, and that's the best thing really about this process that we've gone through is there's very few things in the world when you work in sports, or even when you work in TV entertainment, where you can actually go straight into something that is elite, as you can do with esports. And so we've been able to, if I really wanted to devise and build and design my own real-world racing series, good luck. But within the space of a few months, we've done that, and we've managed to create something that is completely unique and bespoke. New car, new tracks, and some incredible features to the competition as well. So as a motorsport fan, not necessarily as an esports fan, but as a motorsport fan, it's been a dream come true, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Creating your own series. That's pretty cool. We're here, of course, to speak about the V10 R-League, which is a brand new race series from Gfinity and from Nick. And here is a little teaser of what it's about. Gfinity and ADMM. Gfinity's link with esports racing as a whole, obviously best known for their work in F1.
Yeah, of course, and I mean that it's been an absolute joy for everyone here to work with F1, the premier brand in racing. Not just in world racing, in the real world, but now certainly in terms of redefining the way that we do digital motorsport as well. And I think, we all know how much we've benefited from that and learned from the guys over there. And it's been an absolute pleasure to work with them on those series so far.
So, Nick, how did the V10 R-League come about? Where were the roots of this brand new race series?
Yeah, it really is quite simple, really. We as a business want to make sure that we work with our major sporting partners to ensure that we give a really robust approach to their programs. But we also want to create other formats that are reinventing the wheel. And that doesn't just mean for racing, but also across lots of other sectors of competitive gaming and sports gaming as well. And so what we wanted to do with ourselves and with our partner was to come up with a program that really looked at different components of why we love traditional motorsport and celebrate them in a different way. So Team v Team racing was something that we wanted to do for a long time. And also much shorter race formats, sprint race formats that are designed for TV audiences and different types of audiences on different channels as well. So it's really a program that's designed for the best viewing experience, designed around racing, designed around wheel-to-wheel overtakes, and as much fun as possible. And so over the course of last year, we had extensive conversations with our partners, ADMM, and they really like this format. It's something that we devised at the start of the COVID crisis, as something that we could work on together in that crisis and really deliver a great broadcast product despite all the things that we've got against us. And it was ideated in March. It was commissioned in April, and here we are in August, about to start racing.
So, I mean, the partnership with ADMM seems to have come before you actually established the format. So was it a partnership creating the format together, or you had to create it, pitch it to them, and they had to say yes?
Yeah, I mean, we've been in a strategic conversation with them. They're an amazing partner to have. Operators of the Yas Marina circuit, innovators of real-world racing, and they really want to be an innovator in the esports space as well, and a destination digitally and physically in the esports space. So we've been having, as I say, conversations that predate this competition, but really the competition itself brought to life what we've been talking about, and so they came hand in hand as a partnership.
And I love the identities that you've really looked into what makes motorsport great, not necessarily esports racing, but the bits that make motorsport great, and put them all together in this kind of with a blank sheet of paper, really.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for us really was what's difficult about traditional racing and creating a whole new competition is that you've really got one format. You can count TT as a second format, but really visually that's not going to work on a race circuit. So we needed to think of a brand new format that meant that it didn't have to feel like 20 cars driving around a circuit over 20, 30 laps. And so although we've taken the best things of traditional racing, so we've got, and we'll talk about the car, I'm sure, in a second, and we'll talk about the speeds and the power and all the settings that we can do with the car. But actually, what's really unique is the fact that it's a league format. So we've got eight teams taking part, and each week there'll be a match week, just like you have with the Premier League or with the Bundesliga or Serie A. and each week those teams will play a different team across 3 different rounds in each match, and those rounds themselves don't last any longer than 10 to 15 minutes. So it's lots of sprint races, lots of action. Because they're short races, there's a lot of encouragement within the format to make sure that you really attack at the first corner, that you do dive in, that you do take a risk, and that you do think strategically about, because each team will put 3 drivers into each match, and each of those drivers have to drive in each of the 3 rounds. So there's a real new way of looking at strategy and racing. From, do you send your fastest driver out first to sprint off? Do you send your slowest driver out first to hold things up? And also, with blind qualifying, the teams don't necessarily know where they've come in qualifying until the final round of the 3. That strategy is changing right the way through the matchup, where they're seeing how the instead of saying on the track, call it on the pitch, action is going on, because it really is about football style management, team management, and a whole new world of strategy.
So is that really an interest for you guys? Because so much of the esports racing that we've seen over the last couple of months crop up thanks to COVID, but even before that, it's always been linked to a real world motorsport series and effectively tried to copy what they do. This is probably, for me, I can't think of anything else that really has just come in and gone, ripping up the rule book. We're going to start again, but we're going to catch our fans. We're going to catch those motorsport people using the name V10 because everybody loves a V10 engine.
Yeah, you've seen through the plan. Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing is that as a sort of, I think I've said already, but we're always looking for ideas that our own ideas that are about competitive entertainment. So as a business, we know that for us to create ideas and for broadcasters, brands, people to buy into them, and audiences to buy into them, they have to be new and they have to be different. We don't have the incredible legacy of 70 years of Formula One and passion that people have with Formula One to encourage viewership in that way. And equally, if we do try and follow traditional formats with our own product, then there's no way we can compete with, and we don't want to compete with those huge racing brands that do this so well. So we almost, it's almost necessitated that if we were going to finally get into the space and do our own championship, that it had to be something completely different and completely unique.
And what's really cool is that you've managed to attract some incredible teams and names and mix things up totally from, you haven't just got Formula One teams, you've got Suzuki in there as well. You've got Team Fordzilla, who are relatively new to the space, a brand new team in Yas Heat. How have you managed to attract these different teams? And of course, there's 2 teams that are not even announced yet. So what has been that process to get such amazing names?
I mean, I think we've wanted from day one, the big thought process behind the concept, which was devised by a number of people here, is we all saw Ford versus Ferrari last year as a film. Mm-hmm. And we've never been able to see some of the matchups that we can see in this league in the real world. So we don't want to see the traditional competitions that we've seen, either whether it's in the US or whether it's in a European touring car event, or whether it's on the F1 track. We wanted to mix things up in that respect, in a number of different ways. First of all, by making sure that we have teams like Ford involved, new teams, and then other ways in terms of how can we work with the ever-growing communities where we're seeing independent sim racing teams, and help them to amplify their brand by partnering them with some iconic motorsport brands as well. I mean, the Suzuki one for me is super interesting because it does exactly what we've just seen in that reel that we've just shown. in the virtual world, anything is possible. Now I'm not here to decide what Suzuki are going to do in the next 10 years, but I'm pretty confident they're not going to enter a single-seater competition as in the real world. But they can throw themselves into this competition and be competitive and partner with the right partner, and it really allows for marketing, brand awareness, and a celebration of motorsport in a way that they wouldn't have ever been able to do in just a pure non-virtual racing world.
And what have you done to attract these teams? How have you managed to persuade these? Because there are so many events in esports racing, and of course all these teams are very aware of everything that's going on. What makes your series special over the rest of them? Yeah,
I would say that we've had a lot of conversations, and we've had very warm response from every team. There isn't anyone who's who's been a naysayer really about the format. It's excited them, and what's been refreshing to me is, as I said earlier, when I was growing up as a kid, I loved going to race days. I loved being in the paddock and things like that, because motorsport is full of amazing characters and incredibly nice people, and people who really love to race. That's why they do it. It's a passion. There is no other reason to do it. You're born to race, or you're not born to race. And so when we talk to these teams about this format, they love it. They love the fact that it's that we've redesigned the car. They love the fact that we're mixing tracks in a way that you've never seen tracks used before, and they love the fact that we're tearing up the rule book. And it's been refreshingly easy to have these conversations. I think the other thing to say is where we've seen a lot of growth in digital motorsport in the last year. It's still so young, and it's still so completely underserved, I think. And so there's a lot of people who are getting into this space and investing in this space, but there isn't necessarily the framework of real world motorsport in terms of the different tiers, the different layers, the different entry points. So where the amazing thing for us about digital motorsport is democratizing what has traditionally been quite an elite sport. It's still not democratized in that there's still a lot of barriers to entry, there's still a lot of equipment issues that people have, and there's not enough awareness of digital motorsport. So again, I think the teams have been pleased to see that there's a new product out there, there's someone backing something new, putting some prize money in there, and equally looking at a different way to attract broadcasters and brands and commercialize the product as well.
I'm talking to Nick Westwood, who is the creative director of the brand new V10 R-League. If you do have questions, then make sure you ask them on our Twitter feed, or indeed on our YouTube comment section. We will endeavour to try and throw a few Nick's way before the end. So it's based on, and this is really interesting for me, as somebody who's actually created an event using this platform, assetto corsa. Why assetto corsa over all of the different platforms that are on offer at the moment?
I think the biggest thing is that there's so many ways to change that game. It's a sandbox of a game, really, and so the guys here who absolutely love digital motorsport and esports and gaming have had an absolute dream in the last 6 weeks of modding the game, messing about with the color of the grass, messing about with the color of the sky, adding camera filters. Do we have, how much pull focus do we have on things? How much pull focus do we not have on things? Searching through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mods. Rear view mirror, all of the reflection on top of the car, and also in terms of modding the car and creating our own car is much simpler. It's easily the simplest one to work with. We also have our own. We obviously have adjudication. We have a lot of back-end technology to make sure that we're getting all the data out. That's very easy with assetto corsa, but equally it's very easy to design bespoke apps, front-end apps for teams to engage with, for our production team to engage with, and we've been seriously impressed with it, really impressed with it, and really pleased with the choice. And although it's relatively an old game, I I think from a broadcast perspective, what people are going to see when they see the final show will be the best looking broadcast racing content that they've seen for a long time.
So a lot of people who have watched kind of amateur esports would be the wrong thing to say, but kind of events that have been used across particularly COVID, so many championships wanting their championship simulated, and as that of course has been the way forward for so many because of the moddable nature of it. However, all of those events have always looked the same. They've always had limitations on the way that the TV model works on Assetto Corsa, and there are certain things you need to cover and stuff. Have you been able to go so deep that you've been able to remove that, and so we won't even know that it looks like Assetto Corsa?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the one thing I would say is that what we have at our luxury here at Gfinity is we have a full broadcast TV studio here in central London, which having worked for all the major broadcasters in the UK, could easily rival the setups that they've got over at Sky and Isleworth and Input Media, and certainly that allows us to maximise what the game offers in a way that I think that potentially other people aren't able to maximise it. And I think we've been pleasantly surprised at how much we can get out of there, and actually create something that's and there's so many options in there that we can use that we didn't think we had at our disposal. So I don't want to give too much away, but I think people will be pleased with the outcome.
That's very exciting. Now, I know you've been gagging to talk about the car. Obviously, a brand new creation that Assetto Corsa allows you to do. What were the objectives about designing that car? Because you could have done anything. You could have done a shopping trolley if you liked.
Yeah, I mean, I think the objectives were quite simple. It's got to be fast and it's got to be hard to drive.
Okay.
That's basically it. I think, as I said a minute ago, I think one of the concerns we had when we put it out to testing with the drivers was that they were going to find it a bit too tricky, a bit too raw. But actually, that's what they love. Okay, so we've had some very highly regarded drivers, saying to us through testing that they've been taking part in other races, and actually all they can think about is getting into our car and giving it another go, because in the real world, this is a car that you'll probably never be able to drive again. So putting a V10 engine into a modern body, a modern chassis, is risky. Don't get me wrong, because we didn't necessarily know how it was going to come out. But actually, in terms of the way that the power works and the way that the power gets put down, it's a real handful, and everyone's absolutely loved it. And to hear the sound of that engine back on the track has been pretty evocative to anyone who's had a go at it and seen it in action.
And of a certain motorsport age like you and I, who can remember that, and that was our bread and butter, wasn't it? The V10. Is that why the name has so much significance towards the engine? Because I mean, you could have called it anything, but the V10 R is very much a nod towards the engine.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't the name of the competition didn't go through one iteration. It went through many, and as you sort of alluded to, the amount of competitions that go out, that are going on, I've named a lot of things in my time through TV shows and brands, but this was a really tricky one. But I think what we really wanted, the way we really landed on it was, we have this umbrella program called the Global Racing Series, which we hope over the next couple of years we will be able to release a number of other championships across other different vehicles and other different formats. So racing was always a big part of that branding. So we will be carrying that R for racing through all of our branding, through all of our series. And obviously it's very difficult with formula racing to actually define something, in terms of as a title. It's not moto, it's not rally, and so we just went with the engine, and I think it's really worked, because I think that where you, like you just said, for you and I, we still remember that noise. But for some people coming to this, they'll have never heard it before. So, it's not just noise. Do you know what I mean? It actually, it's something that really gets. It's quite a guttural feeling when you hear those cars come past you. So it's a bit of education as well. It's a bit of education about, it's a nod to the past, it's a nod to the future. It's a fact you can't see this anywhere else. And in terms of when you're watching this on TV or online, you're going to get an experience that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Now you've engaged the teams. And I guess now you've got all the teams in position, although I think you've still got 2 to announce. So any surprise announcements for us tonight? Not allowed?
Not really any surprise announcements. I mean, I think that I've been really pleased with the times that have been set in testing. So we've seen some 119s around Monza, and some speeds there that have never been recorded. We have a driver who's driving for Yas that a lot of your audience will know, Jardier, who has been out, taken the car out and recorded it. You can see it on his channel around the Nordschleife, and that's certainly the fastest car that's gone around that track for a very, very long time. And that's a very entertaining watch. So I think what you're going to see is some incredible racing. You're going to see some circuits that are unique. We've got I can't even remember whether we've announced this, but we've got Laguna on our roster, and as I said, Nordschleife is on there as well. So if you're a racing fan, I mean, there's things that as I said, you'll be very pleased to see.
That must have been so hard to choose, because especially with Assetto Corsa, you really do have every track in the world that you could choose, and you don't have to worry about grade 1 or grade 2 like the FIA do. You literally can choose anything you want for these incredibly fast cars.
Yeah, and we didn't make it that easy for ourselves. As I've sort of said it already, we want to make a show that works really well for broadcasters, for sports broadcasters. So. Yeah. They have to be specific. The shows have to really fit into a certain allotted time. So to run Monza and Nordschleife in the same series means that we haven't made our life very easy for ourselves. We've really we've put our pins in the map on the circuits that we actually really want to go to first, and then thought about it second. But we found a solution. But really, the priority has been, if we had any choice to race anywhere in the world, where would we go? And that's where we come up with.
And I love the fact that it's coming from a real motorsport man at heart, and I'm sure many of the team as well. But as somebody who's lived through motorsport all my life, I know exactly the same feelings, and kind of jealous of actually being a creative director for this. This is really cool.
Yeah.
You've engaged the fans. You've engaged the teams and the drivers. The last step for you then is to engage the fans, make it knowledgeable for them, and be able to follow it. And is it important for the fans? And how will fans be able to follow what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we as all sporting endeavours need the fans. We need to get the content to them. So it's one of the big things around our team selections and making sure that we've got teams that are, really into this product and want to shout about it from top of the hilltops. But equally, we will have our own channels. Gfinity has a range of our owned and operated channels that will be making a lot of noise about this. The Gfinity Esports website and Real Sports 101, and we also have the V10 R-League.com website as well, where everyone can find out all the latest information about the teams. And the results when we're live. But the main piece will be, and everyone should keep their eyes out for, and we'll be letting people know about the broadcast partners that we have. We should be announcing those in the next week or so, with all of the transmission times, so that people will know when they're coming out on TV. And they'll also be available across a range of different traditional streaming platforms points as well.
Very exciting. So when will we first be able to watch this competition, do you think?
Well, it's still to be revealed, but it will be revealed in the next 7 to 10 days, the kickoff date.
Okay.
And then we'll be racing weekly. And the way it will work is that the primary show that people will be able to watch is a match day show, where they'll be able to see all 4 matches from that week, and then they'll also be able to catch up on race to race and all the action through the team channels as well.
Well, if you need a commentator, let me know. And thank you so much for chatting with us, Nick. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm super excited to see a motorsport event that is not a motorsport event, if that makes sense, in this virtual world. Because actually, the digital world allows you to do whatever you want to do, and you guys are the first people to really take that plunge and do something a little bit different. So really excited to see what happens.
Thank you very much. It's been good chatting to you.
Nick Westwood, the creative director of the V10 R-League, created by Gfinity, and coming your way. I know the 2 teams that have not been announced, and they are top quality. So very, very excited to see how this works out. My name is Ben Constanduros. I've been your host this evening on the Esports Studio. Thank you so much for joining us. Who knows who we'll be talking to next week? It's always such a surprise, but hopefully we're educating you as we go. Enjoy everything that's happening in the world of esports racing over the next week, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.